Welcome to Getting Ghosted. This is an Intuitive Soul Collective podcast, and I'm your host, Allie Horner. Hey everyone. So for today's episode, I got just a hit of inspiration when I was out hiking, and I was thinking about mediumship and all of the reasons that our readings don't always give us the evidence that we want right there in the reading. And I have a lot of thoughts on this just because I have been doing this work for so long. And so today I wanted to share some examples of why we may not get the answers or the evidence that we want right there in the reading that day. But how basically I just kind of said, I don't want people to be discouraged by that. I know a lot of people are budding mediums. So anyhow, take a listen to this episode and maybe it'll help some of you guys feel a little bit better, especially for you budding mediums out there. And for those of you who are, beginning to practice your mediumship. I hope that this really helps. Hello, everyone. I am recording this while I'm out on a little hike, and it was just something that was kind of coming up and coming to mind. And I was really reflecting on mediumship, and I've done so many discussions and taught so many classes and on this exact topic around what happens when you don't get the reading, the validation that you want in a reading for the medium. And for the sitter, right? And the person who's receiving the reading is what we call the sitter. And I wanted to talk through I've been doing this for just over 10 years. For those of you who are new, hello. And there's a lot that I've learned in that time. And I don't think I'll ever be done learning more with this work. I think we're always going to be students. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what can happen in readings that might make them a little bit sticky or difficult, and what to do in certain circumstances. And just to know that these things happen to the best mediums we've seen out there, and it's okay. And so without further ado, here we go. Okay, so number one, there's a really big focus on what a lot of people are calling evidential mediumship nowadays. Now, evidential mediumship is not new. Mediumship in and of itself is evidential. And so I know that someone kind of took the phrase, coined the phrase, created a system, trademarked it, etc. I'm not even familiar with who that is, because when you begin practicing mediumship, you will find that all mediumship is evidential in nature. It truly isn't any other way. But there are times when the pieces of detail just don't come through from the other side, or they come through, but the person who's receiving the reading can't verify anything because those pieces of information aren't pieces of information that the sitter would know. And so I want to talk about some examples because I think that's going to make it easier to understand. And also, I think this is going to make it easier for people who are receiving readings and people who are giving readings to really grasp that hey, yes, we want to bring through evidence. Yes, we want to have confirmation. Yes, but we just don't always get to have that. And Spirit is always working in really beautiful, bright ways. And I've noticed, if anything, as a medium, you cannot force shit with these guys. It is not up to you to force things to come through from the other side. And for those receiving a reading, you have to know that your mediums are doing the absolute best they can. And sometimes there is just information that you are just not going to get from them. Okay? They really, really could be trying their best to reach your loved one and to get specific information for you, or a certain keyword or code phrase or something like that you want. And for some reason, that person on the other side doesn't bring it through. So I want to give a couple of stories and examples of this. So a long time ago, I was rocking and rolling. I had been doing readings for myself and for other people for a while. I would always get a ton of evidence. So I was surprised when I started hearing the phrase evidentiary mediumship. I was like, well, what's the difference between that and regular mediumship? When I do regular mediumship, I also get dates and significant dates and or pieces of information. The person's personality comes through. They'll show me charms and jewels, trinkets, signals and signs for their loved one that they've already been showing. They'll play, I'm very clairaudient, so I get a ton of songs, the type of music that they liked, music from their favorite age in their lifetime, all sorts of things, right? And it depends on the spirit. And I had to learn this over time. So during this time period, I had been asking my loved ones and guides, like, hey, like, can you give me, like, I was really practicing and I was not feeling as confident, even though I would get a lot of evidence a lot of the time. And so I would say, hey, like, if I'm going to believe you guys and believe that this is actually who's coming through for me to channel with me, I need you to give me specific pieces of information. And often they would do that. And then what would happen is I would Google the person after I wrote down all the information and heard them talking and yada, yada. And I would Google it after and find that everything was confirmed. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So I'm actually hearing from them, right? And that was one way I refined my gift and practiced and noticed, how I picked up information best. And I also noticed, again, different spirits communicate in different ways. Like, and doing back-to-back readings will teach you that faster than anything. Like, because what will happen is often one person's loved one is coming through and they are front and center. They're standing in front of you. They're able to fully pull into the space. They're showing you, like I had one person's grandma come in and she was like, I dyed my hair purple. I did it finally. And she was showing me the purple hair. And I said to this person, hey, does her having purple hair, like she's showing me purple hair. And does it mean anything to you? And the person burst out laughing and said that when they were talking to their grandma on their deathbed, one of the things that they had said was, I always wanted to do that, to like do the purple hair and like dye my hair a really fun color, like rose gold or purple or something. And I just never had the guts to do it. And so this person had gone out and brought the purple hair dye back to dye their grandmother's hair. And unfortunately, when they got back, she was just so close to passing that there just wasn't time to do it. And they had thought like, I never got to give her this. So she was coming through. It wasn't like a birth date or a name or anything. Like I didn't need to get any of that because her main message was, look, I did it and I'm okay in heaven. And she was also saying, don't worry, I didn't miss out on anything. Right. And this person was just like, that is all I needed to hear. But I didn't even know, like they were like, I wasn't even thinking about that. But that is just, it was such a strong confirmation for them. Right. And grandma goes on, she's chatting, she brings through a whole bunch of other things where the person's like, oh my God, that's so her, that's her personality, that's exactly how she would talk, blah, 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 right? Grandma signs off, that person's reading's over. I jump into the next reading, and their loved one is faint. It's their dad, and he's way off over to my right. He feels like he's 1,000 miles away, and I'm like barely getting anything from him. And all of a sudden I get this gentle, it's not even fully clairaudient, it's like a telepathic message, and it's just very short and sweet messages, and I'm seeing a mustache, right? And I'm seeing a mustache comb. And I said to this girl, I'm so sorry, I'm happy to give you a refund because I just feel like he's so gentle and tender, and I'm just not even able to get him through all the way, which is crazy because the person before you, I just feel awful. Their grandmother came in swinging, and she just goes, actually, no, my dad was very gentle and tender, and he did have a mustache like that. And he had this black mustache comb that was like the classic fine-toothed mustache comb that all the guys had forever and ever and ever. All dads had it. It was like a rite of passage for men, like dads, to have this like comb. And she was like, and he had that thing his entire life, and we used to tease him about it. And she goes, that's definitely him. And I was like, and I just feel like he had this gentleness in his eyes, like such a tenderness, like he wasn't a boisterous person. And she goes, that's him. And so as the medium, sometimes Dad was not giving me a lot to work with, right? And for me as a medium, like luckily, I have more experience in this now. But we just have to know sometimes, like, they're not going to come through as strongly. Like, they're not going to give you all the pieces of evidence that you want. And there is often a really good reason for that. And it's got nothing to do with your talent, ability, or skill. Like, I can honestly say, like, I'm sure there are some scammers out there and bots and shit like that. I know that they're out there on TikTok, and imposters. I am relatively sure those are like AI bots. But I'm going to tell you right now, I have never seen anyone charging for mediumship who does not care deeply about getting you the messages. They want to do a good job. Okay, so I want to say that first. And we kick ourselves. Like, it takes a lot for a medium not to beat themselves up or criticize themselves or question themselves if they don't get the full amount of information that you want in that reading. Okay. Now, the other thing is, what a lot of people need to understand is, so sometimes you might come in with a perception of, here's the information I'm supposed to get. Here's the information I'm supposed to have in this reading. I need to get birth dates, times, hair color, their name, blah, blah, blah. So as a medium myself personally, I rarely get names. Like, when I get names, it's usually not someone who's pushing for me to give their loved one's name. It actually is more so that it comes through spontaneously in the days or weeks beforehand. And so I actually only get names when it's a spirit-led channeling, and I don't really do a lot of those because I just tend to have my boundaries pretty clear, and I'm just not always picking up on stuff. I work with my own guides, but otherwise I like to just be present in my own life and in the physical world, so I don't have a lot of that intrusion. And so for me though, that's not my gift. And I've asked my guides so many times, why do I get all this other information but I don't get names? Like, what is up with that? And they just go, to keep you humble. Like, I shit you guys not. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, really? Pardon my French, but that is how I feel about it. And I'd be like, really? Like, and so they'd say, well, we'll have a couple come through and give you some nicknames, like on the spot. And what I have noticed is it's very few and far between, but every once in a while I will get a name, or I'll get names of the people that they want to also send messages to that are in the sitter's life, but wouldn't be present in the reading. So like your sister or your brother or their brother or sister or their parents or something like that. Like, hey, tell my mom, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Or tell Martha, yada, yada, yada. And the person will be like, oh my God, yeah, that's my sister-in-law. Of course, yeah, I'll send the message. I'll pass the message along. And so sometimes it'll come through that way, but often they don't give me that. So as someone who does get a lot of different pieces of evidence, that's just not one that I get. So for the sitters out there, people who get readings, just know that like not all mediums work the same. And that's supposed to be the beauty of this. We're all supposed to be unique. We're not all meant to work the same way. And also your loved ones in spirit are unique as well. They are also not meant to all be the same. And so their strength, the energy they can bring to a reading, how strongly they can come through, how much information they give, how they're communicating with the medium, that's not always up to the medium. Like I said, like some I can hear clear as day. Other ones are really faint and it's more of a telepathic communication. Or some I'll get like a ton of visions and visuals. They're showing me things like left, right, front, and center in my mind. And other ones, there's no clairvoyance at all. There's no visual at all. Some are giving me really specific details. Some come in and say, I just need to get a message to her. I have something I need to guide her with right now. And they'll literally start guiding immediately and start giving advice immediately because they're like, I have been trying to tell her. I haven't been able to get her to listen to shit. She's not getting the message, etc. And so I want to mention this too. As another example, I had a woman who came in, and as many people do, they want to know about a guy that they're dating, and bless it, I don't have to do a lot of those readings anymore. I find them just, I can feel how drained you guys are when you're asking about a guy that you're not sure about or who clearly isn't sure about you, and you don't need always a reading to like know that. Sometimes it just proves as confirmation for what you already know in your gut, right? So with this gal, comes in asking about a guy, and it was a guy that she'd been seeing for a while. He was struggling to commit, and I was like, okay, I might have to go big sister in this one if she doesn't listen to the mediumship messages. And she said, I really want to know what my dad and my uncle have to say. And uncle comes in, shoving dad out of the way. And he just says, like, I was like, okay, like, this is a big presence. This is a big energy. He is like, I'm coming through loud and clear. And he goes, I have been trying to talk to her. Like, he goes, Missy, you need to listen up. And he had this like twinkle in his eye and a kindness to him about it. But he was like, hey, I've been trying to get this message across and I need to do it now. So he comes in and he goes, I've been telling her he is not it. He has another girl or two on the side. He is talking to other people. He is not going to come around. And if she stays with him, she is likely going to have an early exit. She's not going to stick around on Earth much longer because his behavior is putting her in harm's way, and it will continue to. And I just went, okay, he's not giving me any, I'm not getting a name, I'm not getting birth date, I'm not getting any details from him, but I have this message from him. And I said it to her, and he was like, you have to say it just like this. And I was like, okay, got it, sir. Like, absolutely 10-4. And she just sat there almost kind of like a little bit dumbfounded. And I couldn't see her because I do more readings over the phone or on TikTok Live, or as you guys know, over WhatsApp, right? But I got the image in my head of the color draining from someone's face, like them going pale, right? And she just goes, this makes total sense because he drinks and drives a lot, and he tries to hide it. And he also smokes and drives a lot. And he says, well, I'm fine. You can smoke pot and drive and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, and my gut has just been over and over screaming like, he's not fine. This isn't fine. And we've had a couple of near misses already. And she just goes, are they saying anything else? And her uncle clasped his hands together, like did the thing where you're like wiping your hands, like, and then you like hold your hands up. If you guys have ever seen that gesture, you know what I'm talking about. And he's like, nope, that's it. And he goes, I love her too much to placate her. And she goes, yeah, that's definitely my uncle. Like, that's exactly how he talked. And she said, and my dad would have been like, well, when he was alive, like, I don't know, he's such a nice guy, but she was like, my dad was a good guide, but he would never have been so upfront and direct with me. That's when my uncle came in and shoved him out of the way. Like, hey, listen up, Missy. And she goes, he used to say that to me all the time. Like, listen up, Missy. Like, if I didn't clean my plate, if I didn't do my thing, she was like, he could be kind of like brash at times, but in a really cheerful, delightful way where he was almost like tongue in cheek. Like, all right, listen here, Miss Thing, clean this up. Like, get on back over here. And she was like, and so later I got confirmation from her that she did indeed break up with that guy. And unfortunately, he also got a DUI not long after she broke up with him. And she either would have been in the car and like implicated in that, right? Or she could have been, something way worse could have happened, according to her uncle. And I've noticed that spirit will speak really directly like that when it needs to happen. So if your guides or your loved ones are ever like, hey, let's cut the shit, we got to get this message through, it's usually because you haven't been listening to your gut or your intuition, or they've been trying to get you this message a million different ways, and you've been ignoring it because you didn't want to hear it, right? And so her uncle very likely saved her life, right? But he didn't give other evidence. He didn't give other things. Sometimes the message that they have, the guidance that they have, that is the evidence, right? So when it comes to like the rules, and everyone's got it like, oh, it's got to be, we have to have these rules for this. I'm like, I don't know. As an experienced medium, I'm going to tell you right now, spirit doesn't work on our rules. That's not how they work. They'll do their best. But sometimes we have to trust that their message that they're trying to send is much more potent and powerful than what we think we need to get as evidence. Okay? And sometimes also, it's not about the messenger. It's not about who's coming through and all the evidence they bring. The message itself is what's important. It's not about who it came from. It's about what it's saying. You could have a million different beings on the other side who love and adore you and are protecting you every second of every day. Angels around every corner and at every turn. And you could be ignoring every single one of them. And they're all trying to get the same message to you. Right? And you don't have to know them. They don't have to be people you knew in life. You don't have to see a lot of evidence. All you need to do is trust that spirit, like they've got your back, because that is their jobs. That is how they operate. They operate in unconditional love, and they will never steer you wrong. Okay. Now, one of the other things that I have also seen happen for people is when it comes to like having evidence and needing confirmations and stuff, the way that I used to work in the beginning was, I would get these messages from the other side, and I would be talking to certain guides and people and stuff like that. And they would bring these messages through, bring the confirmation through, like I had mentioned. I would Google them because they weren't people I'd known when I was alive. And I'd be like, oh, it's all confirmed. Okay. And they'd be like, see, we are really here. Duh. And stuff like that. And so And then I would go get a reading with another medium, because I would just be like, I don't know, like still doubting myself, right? I was really green and I'd still be doubting myself. So I would be like, well, I'll go to a medium and they'll come through and then it'll be confirmed. Or they'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is crazy. This person's not talking to you at all. Like, you're imagining this. And then I'll be like, oh shit, right? And so one of my guides, again, was someone where I had already Googled, gotten a lot of information, confirmed that I had been, connecting with them, etc. And this guide had never steered me wrong. I had no reason to question whether or not they were actually coming through. But like I said, I doubted myself a ton back then, and I had to really work through the wobble there. And so when I went to get this reading I just picked a random medium. The thing that happened, it was so weird. So we're sitting in the reading, and she was just like, she just goes, so I have this person here, and this is their name. And she goes, do you know them? And I was like, I didn't know them personally, but they've been coming through. And I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy. And I was like, and there's something specific I want them to say. It's supposed to be like a code word. And she was like, they're folding their arms, shaking their head, going, nah, you didn't say the magic word, nah, just like in Jurassic Park. Like it was like a pop-up blocker sitting there. And I was like, fuck, I was like, no way. And at the same time, I saw the same person, because they can be in more than one place at once, and with more than one person at once. And they came and stood in my room, and they had their arms folded, and they said, you need to trust yourself more. You're not crazy. And she just goes, well, they're not saying anything to me. And she goes, are you struggling to trust yourself that you're actually connecting to them? And I was like, yeah. And it ended up actually less than being a reading with this particular person. It was more so, she was like, I think why you're here today is, if I may say, are you open to like talking through why you're not trusting yourself with me? And she had been doing this work for a while, like a lot longer than I had. And I just went, actually, I would love that. Could we do that? I was like, I just need to talk to someone. No one else gets it. I don't know who, I haven't been learning from anyone. My guides have been the only ones teaching me. And she was like, okay, all right, slow down. And so it actually turned into a really nice, it wasn't even fully like a mentorship session. It was more like her just saying, hey, this is kind of a rite of passage with mediumship. We don't always get the confirmation we want. We have to trust the other side. And I was like, but how? I was like, please tell me how. And she was like, girl, through experiencing it. She's like, you're going to trust more and more the more that you're experiencing spirit, the more that you're working with them, the more readings you do. It's like that. She goes, it's not even that. She was like, I know for a fact, I can tell right away, you're a really good medium. And she said, but you're going to learn a lot of hard lessons with this work, because we don't always get what we want. And she was like, and I can tell you, she had talked about how she had done tons of readings through the years and had learned these lessons herself. And she goes, it's just it comes with the territory. It's like an endless trust fall. And that has been something that rings in my ears every time I teach a class, every time I go into channeling mode, every time I'm doing readings, is, hey, remember that this is an endless trust fall, not just for you, but for the people that are receiving these readings. They are struggling with this trust as well. They're not used to this. They don't know how it works. And because one of my things is, in my human design, sometimes I can struggle with patience, but I don't struggle with it as much the more that I channel, because I can see where other people want so badly to be comforted. I want that evidence. I need it. I need the confirmation. Where are they? Do they still exist? Am I doing this right? Am I really hearing from them? Someone just tell me, I'm grieving, I'm upset, or I'm really trying to contact my dog that died. I need this. And it's okay, let's slow the roll here, and let's just take a breath and come on back. And I found the more that I start channeling, and the more that I have been channeling, that it's easier for me to drop into that. But I have a lot of people come to me who struggle with that trust and with coming back to the moment. They're so in their head. Their grief is making them exit their bodies. They're over analyzing. They're looking for so they're I need. And they're in this need. And I get it. It sucks. And it's hard. And I think a lot of times as the mediums, we're not always here to always give all of the evidence. And we have to trust also that sometimes we give messages that they're not really here to confirm. Sometimes we're just here to hold space for people as best we can. And when it's time, have the discernment to refer someone to grief counseling or grief therapy and say, hey, like, I don't have any doubts that you're hearing from your dad that passed. I don't have a doubt in my mind that you're hearing from your sister who is on the other side. But also, like, are you taking care of you? Are you going to grief counseling and group therapy? Because there are people who are really well trained to like walk you through this. And there are support groups out there of people who've lost someone exactly the same way, like you guys wouldn't believe. And so that comes through from spirit as well. As like, sometimes I've had a couple of readings over the years where the entire reading is them going, no, we want her in grief counseling. No, we want her in grief counseling. We want her in grief counseling. We want her in group therapy. We want her in grief counseling. Over and over. Like, they won't even talk about anything else. And that's another thing with spirit, is sometimes they don't give us the answers we want. They give us what we need, because that is the ethical portion of this. We're not here to people please everyone. And while we have to act with kindness and compassion, if we as the mediums are holding back on sending the message that someone really needs to hear according to spirit's perspective, if we're not trusting that spirit really truly has our backs and has these loved ones' backs, right? That's when we might hold back on sending a message that could potentially save someone's life or change the course of their life for the better. Like, maybe no one else has said this to them, right? Maybe their intuition has been telling them to do something and they needed this. They need you to say what spirit is saying, even if it's not what they want to hear, but they need that repeated because this is their one last confirmation, right? This is it. They're on their last rope, right? And so sometimes we have to let go as the mediums and say, I'm not getting all the names, the dates, the birthdays, the significant events, and the favorite colors, and yada, yada, this, that, and the other significant places, whatever. I'm just getting this message. And this is just what has to come through. And I got to trust it. And that is part of mediumship. That is part of doing this ethically. That is part of doing this responsibly, is saying it is not about me getting what I think you're supposed to have and getting what I think I want for you. You as a medium have to take yourself the fuck out of it. It's not about you anymore, right? It's not about you being right or wrong. You have to move aside and let the energy come through. Let the message come through. It's bigger than you are. Okay? I know that's hard to hear, but it is. And when mediums get their egos wrapped too much up in there, they're all up in there, that's when we can make some of those weird, flubby mistakes. And we've all done it. We've all done it. So if you're in that practice, have some compassion for yourself and go, okay, and we start again. Try again. A little bit better this time. Remember, like, we all start at zero, and like, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And we're all learning. Like, there's an endless learning process with this. Now, something else I want to share too, when it comes to receiving evidence and not receiving evidence, is I have absolutely been through the frustration of, getting, again, lots of evidence, lots of details, specific messages, clairaudience, yada, 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 for some clients. And then one client comes in and their messages are totally general. It pisses me the fuck off. I get annoyed. Like, I have a twinge of anger for you guys. And I just go, man, like, it would be cool if we could give this person like something specific here, guys. Come on. And they're like, no, she needs this right now. Trust us. And I've received several messages about why this might happen over the years. And I just want to give you the why behind this. At least from what I have heard, and from what I understand, there's more than one reason that this can happen. But as an example, I had this really lovely woman come in. She wanted a detailed reading, and I'm sitting there and her guides are giving me a lot of like bird's eye view general. And I was like, hey guys, can we get it together? Should I reschedule this? Is this me? Because just that morning had been getting a ton of like really specific stuff again for someone else. And I was like, I'm not tired. I don't know. I was feeling pretty good. I don't know what's going on. Like, I can usually connect, no problem. And so the guides keep going general, and I just say to the gal, it just seems like they're kind of going bird's eye view. They're going really general. And I don't know. I mean, do you want to continue the reading? And she was like, yeah. I was like, okay. Because I didn't want to get past like a point of no return and end up like her feeling like this is a waste or anything like that. Like, again, mediums and channelers, I never want you guys disappointed. Like that part of me that like wants to do right by you is very strong. And so is it for most legit mediums and channelers as well. Like we really want to do a good job for you. Okay. We get frustrated when we can't get the stuff for you too sometimes. Now, nowadays I don't get as frustrated as I used to, but I still have moments where I'm like, really? Why can't I? Is this me? Am I doing something wrong? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, nope, this is what this person needs to hear. And so I just offhandedly said to the girl, like I took a moment, I paused, I closed my eyes and I go, can I just ask, do you struggle with anxiety? Like, do you hyperfixate on things a lot? And she goes, yes. I've been wondering if I like have like anxiety disorder or like OCD or something. And I was like, oh, and her guide said, that's why we're going general. If we give her little specific things, she's just going to have 18 more questions and it's going to put her in a tizzy. We are here to help her ground back in and zoom out because she is too in it right now and she is suffering. And then I repeated that to her and I told her what they were saying. And she goes, yeah, they're right. They're right. If they had given me like some sort of like little detail, I would be fixating. I would be ruminating. And she was like, just sitting here, I just feel clearer. Like I just feel more grounded. It's not even like they're saying anything profound or detailed or whatever. It's like, I just feel better. And I was like, oh my God. So this is part of an energy work session. Like they're doing energy work on her. Like they're helping to clear her mind. And now I'm not saying this is any sort of cure for any sort of mental health, anything, or OCD or anxiety. But I will say for just that moment, those general messages made sense for that person. There was, again, more going on than meets the eye, and spirit absolutely had our backs. Okay. And again, as the channel, I had to trust that instead of getting frustrated and annoyed. Where's the evidence? Where's the detail? Where is it? Like, it's kind of like taking out a half-baked cake. Nobody needs to eat that. That's like diarrhea waiting to happen. So anyhow, it was another lesson for me of like, hey, sometimes they go general and it's not about us. Sometimes there's a reason they're going general. And also sometimes there are little code words or little things that they're giving that are in the general messages. Like there was another time where I had a gal where I was getting, again, a lot of general stuff for her. And I was like, not loving this, but you know what? I've been learning to trust this. So let's just keep going with it. And some of the phrasing was general, but kind of weird, where I was like, that's definitely not me. That's not how I would articulate that or how I would say that. So I just kept going with it. And a couple days later, I get a message from her and she goes, hey, so you know how the guides kept saying, in love we trust? And they kept saying the word trust. She was like, you would not believe how many flippin' posters and books and even an email. I just got like a newsletter from like a company or a brand that have the word trust like on the thing. She was like, I even found this bumper sticker, or like it was like a little like a sticker that people put on their laptop or their Nalgene bottle. Oh my God, Nalgene bottle. How old am I? They're Stanley's. Jesus. And the sticker was, in love we trust. And she was like, I just happened to find this after our reading. And I was like, okay. So that was them saying, no, we really were there. Those were the right messages. We know they're general, but that's what she needed to hear. And it's kind of like, hey, just trust us. We'll give you the comfort. We'll give you the signs afterward. We'll confirm it. We'll validate it. It's okay. Sometimes people also need a word activation like trust. Trust. That is like, oh, I know my guides are talking to me because the word trust comes in first. There are specific word activations that come through for people. And there's even channeling techniques where you can use a specific code word or keyword, and it tends to be something really general like that. It'll be like a single word like trust. Or I've noticed my guides, it's we're with you, dear ones, always dear ones. And it's like immediately, boom, we're in channel. And so I wanted to offer that as well, that sometimes there's a reason for what they're doing, and it's not always about, that evidence coming through in the reading. Now, sometimes as well, just like with this gal, the evidence or the confirmation, the validation doesn't come through in the reading. It comes through after. It comes through from the loved ones, from the signs. It's an event that ends up happening. It's something that they're like, hey, like, we want this person to learn, again, how to trust. Now, another example I want to give, this is a super cool one, is about one of my dear friends, and some of you might have heard this before, so forgive me, but some of you are new, and sometimes we just need to hear things more than once. Now, one of my dear friends was working on her mediumship, and she was one of those lucky ducks where the second she tried to tune in with certain people, it just came right through. And her awakening just so happened when one of her dear friend's wives died, and she died really suddenly, it was from, let's just say, like an overdose of something. It was not something that people knew about. It was like really shocked everyone, and it was very upsetting for everyone. And my friend noticed very quickly after this happened that this gal was coming through, and she was like, I swear to God, I'm hearing her. I swear to God, I feel like I'm going crazy. And I was like, no, you're not crazy. She's really there. That's really her. And she was like, what? Like, she was just shocked. And I don't think there are words to describe how stunning it is or how overwhelming it is when you go your whole life, like she had, not really thinking that you could do things like this, or maybe having had little experiences when you're young and like thinking they were your imagination, and then finding out as a full-grown adult that, oh my God, there's a dead person talking to me. It's really shocking for certain people, especially if they grow up in certain environments that don't really support that, right? So my dear friend goes and just said, well, I feel like she really wants to send messages to this other family member. And I was like, cool. Well, why don't you go try it out, or, whatever you feel comfortable with, but let me know what happens, should you choose to do it. And so later on, I get this message from her, and she's like, yeah, I sat down with them and I was giving them all these messages, but then this girl's grandma came through. And she was saying all these things, and the girl was sitting there, and my friend was sitting there and was like, I don't know what any of this means. This doesn't make any sense. The whole time. And she was like, I guess I'm not really good at this. I guess I can't do it. And immediately in my head, one of my guides said, tell her to just give it a day or two. Just give it a day or two. Okay. And I was like, okay. So I tell her that. And she's still really upset. She feels like a fool. Like, she's just like, I can't believe I did that. This is so embarrassing. I probably made this person really upset. Like, saying these messages are from grandma. Now they think I'm nuts. I'm like, no. Just give it a day or two. That's what I keep hearing. And my guides were like, no, she did it right. Just give it a day or two. And so a day and a half later, her friend messages her back, or reaches out to her and says, oh my God. So I was really confused by everything you were saying about my grandma. Like, I was like, I don't know what the hell any of this is. This doesn't sound like her. I don't know any of these things. I don't know. And I went and I told my mom about everything that had come through. Like, it just came spilling out of me. Like, all the stuff from the reading. Like, it was like word vomit. And she said, my mom sat there dumbfounded and just went, oh my God, I know what all that means. That's definitely her. So the grandmother, in essence, knew that her own daughter wasn't ever going to come in and probably get a reading, right? But she did know that her granddaughter was in contact with my friend, who is a budding medium. She knew that my friend would be able to send the messages to the granddaughter, and that the granddaughter could then go relay them like a game of telephone to her mom for grandma on the other side. And so, again, when we think about evidential mediumship, and like, we've got to get the evidence here, we've got to get it now, I don't know that that's the case. I disagree with that, because when we want to put strict rules on spirit, one of the things I see over and over again is they have other ways of working that are bigger than we are, bigger than our egos, bigger than our need for constant control. And so it's almost like the God works in mysterious ways thing, though I don't really like talk in those types of terms a lot, but like, the universe works in ways that are going to humble us and challenge us, and are going to teach us the magic and the beauty and the wonder of how the other side works. And it's not always going to work the way that we want. And just again, sometimes the messages aren't for that sitter. Sometimes that sitter or that person receiving the reading is meant to go tell someone else in the family, someone else that wouldn't have been able to be reached, someone else that needed to hear, of course, your mom is still watching out for you. Of course, she knows what's going on in your life. Of course, she remembers all these lovely things from your life together, from when you were little, things your granddaughter wouldn't have known about in the reading. Like, of course she does. Of course she still loves you. Like, sometimes it's like, hey, it's not just about you. It's about this other person who would never have gone and gotten this reading or gotten these messages otherwise. Okay. Again, we have to say, just because we can't confirm or validate something now doesn't mean it won't make sense later, right? And so that is honestly one of my favorite stories, because it just teaches us again and again and again, hey, it's not always about you. And another example of that is Laura Jackson, in her show on Netflix. She had gone and she was like doing, I forget what episode this is. I'll try to link it in the show notes. I'll look it up afterward. But she was doing a reading for someone on camera in this episode of the show. And she's saying all these things. And the gal's like, no, that's not for me. I don't know who that is. And all of a sudden they look up, and one of the gals who was behind the camera, like one of the crew members, is in tears and says, I know what all that means. That was for me. I think she said that's my mom, if I remember right. And again, and Laura Jackson is a beautiful medium. Like, she has been doing this, like, has walked through fire with this, and you can learn about that in her books. Highly recommend them, because her story is so powerful, and I think it's very grounding to see even this amazing hugely evidential medium who still still has experiences that are like, okay, so we have someone else kind of cutting into their reading, and okay, that's why this wasn't making sense to this person. It happens to the absolute best of us, you guys. So sometimes, again, spirit is finding that way through where they're just like, this is my only chance to talk to my daughter. Like, let me come in. And the other person's mom is like, yeah, absolutely, go for it. That's okay. Cool. Right? And so, sometimes like things are working in ways that we just don't understand in the moment. And then all of a sudden, again, like they make sense later. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. As you could hear, I recorded it while I was hiking, and I was just very inspired when I was hiking it, and really, I don't know, I just felt like it was a good time to, kind of cover these subjects again. And, it never hurts to go over things. For some of you, you probably heard these stories before, but it never hurts to like kind of, revisit this stuff. So anyhow, thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to learn more about me or other things about mediumship, feel free to click around in the show notes or in my link tree. Thank you, everyone.